Good morning. This is kind of a extra video for this week. I've had a lot of people write me and ask me about feeding a reticulated python. There are so many factors that go into this, so let's discuss the different factors and what to feed a reticulated python. There's several methods of this and there's several factors, so let's touch base and try to touch base on each and every one of them. First and foremost, reticulated pythons, as most of you know, one of the longest snakes in the world, okay? So when you're going into this hobby, are you a beginner? Are you a enthusiast? Are you a hobbyist? Are you a breeder? All right, those are the things that we need to take into consideration. Are you going to purchase a snake and know that in a year's time, you could possibly have a 9-foot snake in your possession? Do you have the space for it? Do you have adequate housing for it? All these factors got to play. What exactly do you want to do with this snake? Do you want to breed it? Do you want to just keep it as a pet? What are you going to do with it? So we got to take all those factors when we're talking about feed, because there are several different methods when it comes to feeding a reticulated python. I'm a breeder, so my females that are 3 years to 4 years are fed much heavier, much larger prey than a 1-year-old male. So let's go over some of the different sizes of retics. Right behind me, this is a normal reticulated python. She is a late 2017. Hey, you. Now, when we talk about, this is Natasha, by the way. She is a normal retic. She has been slow grown to a point, but if you look at her girth isn't all that thick like some of them. All right. She has been fed an adequate amount of food. Yes, you have. Basically, my rule of thumb is the same size as her girth. If you feed a rat once a week, or even once every 2 weeks, you're going to have a healthy snake. There are some retics that, they start running around, they're looking for food. Some might get hungrier quicker. But 2017, normal retic, fed, this one here has just got to the point where she's eating large rats. She has been on smalls for the first 6 months, and then she went to mediums, and now we're on to large. So her growth rate has been kept at a minimum. I say minimum, but let me show you this. Get her back in here without any trouble, hopefully. I know you like being out. All right, now we've taken that into consideration. She is eventually going to be a breeder, but she's coming up on 3 years old, so she's not going to be used soon. Now, next year, when she goes into the breeding program, she's going to be fed every 5 days, and the size of the prey is going to be substantially bigger. So, check this one out. Most of y'all have seen my titanium. This is Tethys. Now, as you can see, her girth is smaller than Natasha, my normal. She's not near as long. She looks healthy, right? All right. This is a 2015 female that was slow grown by Jay Brewer out at Prehistoric Pets. When you talk about age-wise, she's supposed to be ready this fall. She's not going to be ready this fall. When breeding, you're looking at a 10-foot minimum on the size. She's probably not going to get there. I could probably get her there, but I'm not going to rush the process. It's better for me just to wait another year and do it slow and gradual. 2015, slow grow. All right. So why would you slow grow? What would be the reasoning for not feeding your animal like you think it should be fed? If you just have a pet, you got a retic and it's just going to be, hey, I've always wanted a retic. I'm not going to breed or anything. I'm not really interested in getting a huge snake, but I love the retics. That's fine. You can kind of control their growth, as you can see with a 2015. She's perfectly healthy. There's no problems. I have no health issues with her. More than likely, if I could really pinpoint it, I would say she was fed probably a small rat every 2 to 3 weeks for her first year. And then, and I could be wrong. You would have to consult Jay Brewer for that information. But she's perfectly healthy. She like I say, she's 4 years old. Now, most of you know my Lavender Golden Child, Lucina. She's also 4 years old. She's coming up on 16, 17 feet. So she was fed much more substantially. Another example is little Gabrielle here, which is a Golden Child. She is a mid-2017, a little bit thicker. She is actually on large rats now, but she's not in the breeding program yet, so I'm feeding her large rats every 2 weeks. That is to keep her growth down a little bit, getting the adequate nutrients that she needs, and she does fine. She just shed yesterday, by the way. Gorgeous animal. Now, getting back to how much should I feed my retic? Are you going to breed? If not, do you want a large snake? Do you want a smaller retic? You love the retics, but you want to keep them smaller. If that's the case, If that's the case, you can do one of two things. The size of the rat should meet the size of their girth. If you do that once a week, you're going to keep that growth rate down to a minimum. You're still going to have a beautiful, healthy, reticulated python. My rule of thumb is the bigger the food bump, the less frequency of the feeding. So if you're feeding, like she gets a large rat, you know, she has a pretty substantial food bump, which means that the prey is much bigger than her girth. You can actually see it when she gets it down to her stomach area. You can see a big lump. Another slow rate method is feed them once a large rat like that every 2 weeks, or maybe even 2.5. You're still going to have a healthy snake, and it's still going to be perfectly fine. People that don't mind big snakes, they want big snakes. Feed them the good sized food bump once a week. The growth rate is going to be good enough to where it's not going to get incredibly fat. It's not going to be unhealthy. The growth rate is going to be really good. And you can get them up to 9-10 feet the first year, guys. So, and that's a stretch. That's putting food to them pretty good. And then I've also had people ask me, what about variety? Chickens, guinea pigs, regular pigs, rabbits. All that's fine. Variety is fine. There's really nothing wrong with variety. There again, what size of a snake are you wanting to keep? Keep in mind, the bigger the snake, the more expensive it is to feed them. That's why a lot of breeders will slow feed the snakes they have in stock in order to keep their expenses down, still have a healthy snake, and it gives the person that's buying the snake an option. Do I want a big snake, or do I want to breed the snake later and get it up to weight and length? A lot of factors. Right? As far as the variety, Mine only get the rats and the rabbits. Most of you have seen the freezer is usually full of rats. I do have a couple of 12-pound pigs in there that are going to be for Lucina a little later on. But rats and rabbits are the only things that mine get. A lot of them won't take rabbits. A lot of them won't take chickens. A lot of them won't take rabbits. So what is your snake? What is it going to eat? Again, variety is fine. One thing with the chickens, if anybody has fed a chicken to their snake and 2 weeks later go in their snake lair or snake room to the most god-awful smell that they've ever smelled, that's from the chicken. They start eating chickens, man, their shit stinks something terrible. It's like tenfold. It's awful. So, I'm going to personally stick to rats and rabbits. My breeder girl got on rabbits. She did really good transitioning from rats to rabbits. It doesn't matter to her. Sometimes you're going to have a finicky snake. I've got one that will only take rats. So I've got to buy those colossal retired breeder rats and give them that. This girl right here, she is a 2016. If you saw my video yesterday on the hook training and remedies and stuff, she was substantially bigger than the 2015. She was fed a lot more. This person didn't mind larger snakes, so he really put the food to her. It's all on personal preference. I've heard so many people say, well, I don't want a retic. I don't want a 20-foot snake in my house. All right, you don't want a 20-foot snake? Don't feed it as much. They can be perfectly healthy getting the size of their girth on a prey item once a week. Their growth rate is still good enough to substantiate a healthy environment. So, overthinking. That's a lot of people overthinking on this. Chickens in your bigger retics, big food bump. All right, and that's fine if you're going to want a bigger snake. One more example I want to show you. And this goes with, are you wanting to breed your snakes? Naturally, the females, they have to be over 10 feet, anywhere between 3 and 4 years, they'll go in season. So the objective is to get them much bigger at that time period. Males, typically when they're 16 months, that's when they go into breeding mode. I've heard some people say, well, I had one at a year old and he did fine. Yeah, that's great. Some do, some don't. But you want to keep your males smaller. I'm here to tell you, when you are putting a male in with a female or vice versa, getting the male out of the female's pen, you're not going to want to deal with a male that's the same size as the female. So most breeders keep the males really small. Here's an example. You saw she was a 2017. My other 17, let me show you a 2018 male. This guy right here is Phoenix, and I just got him out of his water bowl. But here you have, and he's in shed. How about that? You're in blue. Yes. All right, that is a 2018 male. He was born in either May or June of 2018. So substantially smaller. He's only getting fed a small rat every 2 weeks. And by small, you can see his girth. It's going to be about the size of the rat when it's wet and stretched out. And that's perfectly fine. He's healthy. He's alert. He is a good, healthy snake. So me being a breeder or wanting to keep my males smaller, all you have to do is decrease the size of your prey or your frequency of feed. You have to establish what you're going to do with that snake. Unfortunately, there are people out there that just get into retics and they think, oh, I want a 14, 15-foot snake. They may not be ready for that. And what happens is the snake suffers. Either they lose interest or they are scared of the animal and they don't take care of it like they should. If you're scared of a 14-foot retic, if that animal defecates in its enclosure, you're going to be more apt to let it sit in that and let the bacteria grow, and that's not good. So be sure that you're ready at any point if you get into retics for a big snake, because it can happen to you really quick. Getting off topic, food. Small rat every 2 weeks keeps his size small. For those of you that say, I want a retic, but I don't want a big snake, don't feed it as much. It still can be healthy. So, hopefully that answered some of y'all's questions. I know the variety question was really big this week. It's great to offer variety. Some snakes will take it, some won't. I've got some that'll take rabbits. I'm sure they'll take chickens, but I'm not putting up with that smell. These snakes are in my house, so we're not going to be doing chickens. Guinea pigs, regular pigs, all that's fine. What do you want to do with that animal? Are you wanting it as a pet? If so, are you ready for a 12 to 14, 15, 16-foot snake? Do you have adequate space for it? Feed it accordingly. If it's something you don't know about, ask the experts. All right? You can see him being fed every 2 weeks. He still is shedding. I think shedding every 35 to 40 days right now. And that's with a small rat every 2 weeks. So he does really super good. With that said, there are several apps that can help you with the feeding. There is one called Time, the number 2, Feed. That is an app that you can put your animals in there. It'll give you notifications as to if you want a reminder that, hey, I want a reminder for every 7 days for my snake to get fed. That way you don't lose track of time or when it was done. A lot of people write it down in notebooks. I usually use the app Time, the number 2, Feed. All of my snakes are in there. I have some with reminders. I can just go back and say, hey, when was the last time this thing ate? Oh, okay, yep, he needs to eat today, this weekend. And you can also put their shedding in there. You can put remarks. You can put birth dates on it. So it's a really helpful app. I also do all my feedings in a notebook, dated, so there's no way I'm going to mess up on that. And I also have a whiteboard over there that has last fed, last shed, last water change. So there's several ways of monitoring when everything was done, when you need to do it again. When it comes to feeding your retic, figure out what you want to do with it. What exactly are you doing with that animal? Is it a pet? Is it a breeder? Is it a pet and you just want a big snake? Every 7 days, big food bump, you'll have a big snake in no time. Hope that helps for everybody. Any questions about it, let me know. If I don't know the answer, we'll figure it out for you. We'll get somebody who does know the answer. Thanks for watching. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.